And we are live. Welcome back, sci-fi fans, to another episode of the Science Fictionary. As usual, David is here with me. Marisha's chair is here, but she will hopefully join us somewhere along the way. Well, I'm hearing our intro music again.
Us too. It's gone.
All right, Ro from the Scarif podcast is joining us, as is Alan from Press Play Studios. Alan, this is your first time on the show. Thanks for joining us tonight.
I'm really excited to be here. Thank you so much for having me, guys.
Yeah, glad you're here. Looks like we got a few people hanging out in the chat. I see Lunar Girl and Nicole and Amanda. And Marisha is coming. She's in the chat apparently. While either stuck in a drive-through or driving. I'm not sure which, but
One of those is less dangerous than the other.
it's true. Anyway, we're going to talk Hawkeye episode 4, which this should be a little easier than the last time. Last time we talked 3 episodes at once, and it was hard to remember what came from what episode in some situations. But just first off, just right off the bat, what did everybody think about this episode? David? Or Alan, go ahead.
No, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I thought it was a very fun episode. I don't think it was necessarily on the same level as the first 3, but it wasn't a huge letdown either. I thoroughly enjoyed this one.
Yeah. David?
I really liked it a lot. I like the Christmas stuff, leaning into that this is like a Christmas series, though that does cause some problems when the tone is just a little it kind of seesaws a little bit sometimes. Not a whole lot. It's not jarring, but on one hand, there are times where they're hanging out doing fun. They'll be doing fun Christmas stuff, and I'm like, shouldn't y'all be like working towards solving the problem that's going on right now? Like sometimes that's kind of an issue, but it's not taking me out of the show entirely. And I notice it most in this episode, but overall I still really liked it. I liked the developing relationship between Kate and Clint.
Yeah.
I liked the fight scenes in this one. Definitely the best fight scenes we've gotten so far. I like what they're doing with Kate's character. She's a little too weird sometimes, but that's okay with me. As long as they play that up more, like make her weird, make that like really a part of her character instead of it kind of seesawing. Like I feel like it kind of does. Same thing with the tone. Where like on one hand, Kate's really serious and competent, and then on the other hand, she's like, and she's also like really totally not jarred by the fact that she's hanging out with Hawkeye, and then on the other hand, she's like freaking out in the elevator, being really weird to this guy. That was a funny scene, and I liked that scene.
Yeah.
But still, I think that's kind of a problem.
I actually kind of like the back and forth with Kate because she's, on one hand, she's had everything she's ever wanted in her life. Actually, I have no problem accepting that someone that grew up around people like she's supposed to have, the high society crowd, that she has any issue hanging out with an Avenger. But I'd like that while she has, she's had hard things in her life too. And when she's around her mother, she's generally still pretty serious. But I do like that when she's with Clint, she's kind of a big kid a lot of times when she's with Clint.
Yeah, I agree.
I do like her character, and this is a very minor issue for me that I'm having. I'm just trying to...
And I think eventually you have to balance it out. But I like that. Yeah. I think the uncomfortableness of the situation plays out in her being a little silly.
Mm-hmm. And that's actually what I was going to comment on your statement is I feel that her, especially when she's around Hawkeye, how she's kind of stumbling over herself a little bit and being a little goofy is because she's kind of starstruck.
Yeah.
Because she, Clint is the reason that she picked up the bow and arrow in the first place.
Right.
Yeah.
But I'm really loving the show. I really like this episode. Oh, before I go any further, Megan, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to miss you over there in the chat, but I'm glad you're here. But I really, really I liked this episode a lot. I feel like I liked this episode more than a lot of people I've talked to. But what I love about this show, some of these things we've done, like we're doing an Ironheart series. Well, Tony's gone. We're just going to go straight in to a character that's sort of a replacement Iron Man by going, hey, by the way, here's your new Iron Man.
And a character that wasn't that successful in the comics. So
correct, but there's no
have a hard time selling that.
But there's no transition, and we're kind of going to get that with a few of the characters. But I like with this one that Hawkeye's there, he's present, and we kind of see the torch being passed. And what I love about this episode is that one, they've never had a whole lot of time to really go deep into Clint's story in the movies, but he's kind of a tortured soul. And there's the moment where he's, after Kate goes to bed, after he has talked about the fact that he is Ronin and talked about Natasha, and we get those flashback scenes. And I love that adding to, even though we already knew those things about Hawkeye, we kind of get to go a little deeper into his psyche on it.
Yeah.
And because of that, while we didn't get as much action, I honestly thought this, given that we're over halfway through, that this was the over halfway mark, I thought the action would really ramp up in this episode. But it didn't, but I do really appreciate the dive into who these characters are, especially Clint. And we got some character development in some unexpected places too. And we're going to get into this. I'll get into this a little later as we kind of go through the show. But something's going on. Laura Barton is a much bigger player than I think we ever really thought about.
Yeah. I always just kind of assumed
She's just Clint's wife, right?
that they met in a coffee shop and like she's just Clint's wife. But now that I think about it, she's, for someone who's just supposed to be who we assume is a regular person, she handles this stuff really, really well. It is very understanding, and yeah, there's definitely more going on to her. I don't know if maybe she was. Maybe like she was a former Black Widow, but no, they have kids, so that's not it.
Yeah,
because they're sterilized. So
I've
a spy.
I think she was an ex-SHIELD agent.
I think that's exactly it, and I think they're going somewhere that I hope they're going with that. But I'm gonna hold that for just a few minutes. But
I'll keep my mouth shut because I think you and I are probably on the same page.
Yeah, I'm not the. It's like this idea is out there. It's not a new idea. I didn't come up with it, but I think that all the telltale signs are there.
It makes sense,
right?
Yeah, she has a certain code name. Maybe when she was in SHIELD.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, and if anyone's watching the chat, then they may see someone has posted that exact name that we were trying to avoid.
Yeah, they did. So Nicole went ahead and threw it out there. So let's just go ahead and mention it. I mean, we have several things going on with Laura Barton in this episode. One, that he just, we knew that she was kind of like, he talked to her about what's going on.
Right.
We knew that. But we kind of get the idea now that she's much more involved. I mean, the first time that Tony ever saw her, said this has got to be an agent of some kind.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
So, I mean, we go that far back with this idea. And not only did she first, I mean, he calls her and says, look into Sloan Limited. Mm-hmm. And she immediately calls back with, Jack Duquesne is the head of Sloan Limited. And she apparently, through some means, I don't know if she's got people or what, but she flipped Kazi enough for him to make a comment about Jack Duquesne being his boss and he never gives him a day off.
Yeah.
So,
and the fact that she immediately started talking Russian.
Yeah.
Kind of gave you also another one of those, oh, okay. She's able to, to communicate on this spy level that Clint is. So, yeah.
And so I see that Roe over here has mentioned that Mockingbird was the other actress. And I guess there's a couple of things there. We've really never gotten any kind of... They're kind of wishy-washy about whether S.H.I.E.L.D. is canon. It seems like kind of the general explanation coming out of Marvel is that after they went back in time and came and changed the past, came back, that they're an alternate timeline.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
however, Bobby Morse was before they left. So theoretically, in the MCU timeline, if they decide to go that route, and I think the real easy thing there is that Mockingbird is a code name.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking too. It's 007. Laura was Mockingbird, and she retired, and then it was passed on. So yeah, that brings up what we were sneakily talking about, is that there might be a reveal that Laura was a Shield agent, codenamed Mockingbird, which would be super cool. I think
Very.
because
Very.
of course, Hawkeye and Mockingbird have a relationship in the comic books. I believe they were married.
They were.
Um,
I believe so.
and
Yes.
and ever since Mockingbird was in Agents of Shield, she debuted in Agents of Shield before the movie Age of Ultron. So there were a lot of theories of like, oh, it's Hawkeye's girlfriend, and then of course Age of Ultron comes out, and we see that that's not the case. But I think it'd be really cool if they circled back to that all these years later and made it work.
Yeah. Yeah, so we got several things. Like she refers to the watch, so we get a little more input on the watch, and I
Yeah.
will bring that up in a little bit. I'm not sure. It might have been Russian. I'd have to go back and listen to it again. I really thought it was German, but I guess it doesn't really matter. Either way, it was to keep the kids from knowing what she was talking about.
And the look some of the kids had, I have a feeling that they kind of knew what she was saying anyway.
Right. They definitely knew what was up.
Hey.
Hello.
Marisha is finally here, so we're going to actually back up now and talk about. We're going to go back to the beginning of the episode and work our way through the episode. So we pick up right where we left off, the end of episode 3, with the sword at Clint's throat. I really, really hated Jack the first couple of times we met Jack.
Yeah.
But after this episode, you almost kind of, at least for me, like I almost kind of like Jack and like kind of almost don't want him to be quite the big bad here.
Yeah. I almost get the impression that Kate was starting to feel the same way. You see
Warming
Jack
up a little bit.
We'll get that little warm and fuzzy family moment.
and Kate like smiles, and the impression I got from that is Kate being like, I really hope that I'm wrong about this guy,
Right.
and that he's actually like
Right.
cool.
Because that's the thing. In that scene, he's he's charming, a little goofy, but her mother's happy.
Yeah.
I mean, you kind of get the feeling like maybe she's never actually seen her mom happy.
Right. Or at least since her father died.
Yeah, since her father died. Yep.
Yeah.
And I think that's exactly the case there. So
And they were
really
clearly
like that.
having issues, though. The
Now-
mom and the dad clearly had stuff going on, too, before
Now,
he died.
where do we think? Who do we think Eleanor? I think Eleanor is a bigger player than Jack in all of this.
I honestly would not be surprised by the end of the episode if the roles were reversed and he's the innocent one and she's the one that's pulling the strings.
She's the...
I do think there's been some misdirection, like we talked last week. I don't think that the Ronin that we saw kill Maya's father was Clint.
No.
And
Yeah, because we also don't know for sure when that happened, right?
correct.
That could have been during the Ronin days, or it could have been literally a week ago. It could have been right after the Ronin stuff was stolen. We have no frame of reference.
It seems like it was a couple of years ago, but we don't know that didn't
That's
happen.
what I assumed, but I don't
Yeah.
know.
Right. Well, the only line I think you can go from is that when Clint interrogates Kazi, he says, you were under, what was Maya's father's name? I don't remember, but you were a lieutenant under him for so many years, and then under Maya for a couple more. So I think that we've got
to. You know that Ronin dealt with the Tracksuit Mafia when he talked
Yeah.
to his wife about it.
right.
And it's not out of the realm of possibility to believe that Ronin would kill that guy, but I still think that there might be more to that. And also, Clint's been he's talked a lot with that lieutenant guy. I feel like, why wouldn't he have said, hey, Ronin didn't kill him. I know that for a fact. tell Maya that. Though, whenever he's also saying things like, if he's willing to say, like, Ronan is dead, I know that for a fact, why not also throw out there, Ronan did not kill him, if that's the case?
But
Well, he's really trying to not let anyone know it was him. So the more details he gives, the more he has the chance of them finding out.
Right.
well, and
Which I
she
think is the problem, because he's trying to atone for what he did, but not without admitting what he did.
showing his hand. Oh, but has she actually said that Ronan killed her father? Is that something that we as the audience know, or we know that, but
Well, she saw Ronan. We saw what she saw.
But what I'm saying is, if Clint is not Ronan, there would be no way for him to know that was Maya's father, even if he had killed him. Like, he wouldn't know that her vendetta is because Ronan killed her dad.
Right.
Unless he's Ronan and killed her dad.
But how would he know that he was her dad?
And I don't think we know. I don't think we know any of that. And I'm going to be real honest, and I'm going to say something that is absolutely wild speculation, because it might have been digital. It might have been a stunt double. Mm-hmm. But that flashback scene of Ronan in this episode, where we see him killing the people at the van, when you get a profile shot of the person, you can see the eye and the area around the eye enough to know that that's not Clint Barton in that costume. And I'm 90% sure that it's Laura.
Oh, well, Laura got snapped.
But we don't know when that scene happened. That scene was given to us totally without any perspective on when. It's just a flashback of things that he's had to deal with.
And that's the thing. The show's done that type of thing a few times, where it hasn't really given you a time and place per se. You're just knowing that it has happened. You're just not sure when.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. They're playing with that a lot, and I hope that pays off.
So let's talk about the scene where, at the beginning, with the sit down with the four characters, with Jack and Eleanor and Kate and Clint all sitting around the table. Really, that scene, we get a few things there. Actually, let's just go forward to the conversation that Eleanor has with Clint at the door as she's walking him out.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
What did y'all think? I mean, what were your reactions to? Because I think there's several ways you could take the things that she says to him. To me, it feels like a little bit of a threat.
I personally looked at it like, okay, when she said to him, you must have children.
Yeah, she says, "Do you have kids?" I'm going to assume that you do.
I'm going to assume.
And then 10 minutes later in the episode, we get a list with his kids' names on it.
Right. So it was, to me, it felt like like I'm going to talk to you as another parent, but the subtext is, you better take a good listen.
Yeah.
If you know what I'm saying, it felt like it was a very subtle, under the breath threat.
Right. Well, and the fact that because she seems to know that he has kids, which means she's already been digging.
Yes.
Because these are people, this family, we have to remember, it wasn't just someone that hid this family. It was Nick Fury that hid that family from public knowledge. So someone's been digging on Clint
to be
already.
able to figure that out is crazy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so I talked about it a little bit in our last review, but Eleanor is really, really weird to me. She does not react to things the way a normal person should. And I'm going to give the show the benefit of the doubt and say that it's not just bad writing, and say that that's just like because she does have more going on and she's not just a normal person. She's not a normal mother. Mm-hmm. Like, literally, her daughter's apartment burns down. She doesn't hear from her. The next morning, she's like, "Hey, so what was that about a fire in your apartment?" Like, no mother would be so casual and chill about that kind of thing.
No.
Right?
Right.
No, and then, same thing.
You must have a mother or something.
Yeah, exactly. I must have like 4 parents or something. So, and then like Hawkeye's there, and she's like, "Why is an Avenger in my living room?" And then she's just totally super chill and casual about finding out her daughter is working on a case with Hawkeye. and then just like gonna have a casual conversation with him as he leaves. And then she just goes right back to like sitting in the loft and having a little family time, and she doesn't have conversations with Kate that a normal mother would have with her daughter. She doesn't ask these questions of like, "Hey, so you want to explain what the hell's going on ever since you got back into town?" Because none of
Right.
this makes sense, and I'm
Yeah.
not okay with it, and you're grounded. Like, what's going on with that? She's way too nonchalant about these kinds of things, almost as if she's just dealt that this is her normal life because she is very much involved
As
in
if she already knows.
and criminal activity and stuff, and she already
Right.
knows what's going on. Like she has that bitch of security. I guarantee you, she knows where Kate is at all times.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. I think she's keeping tabs on the whole thing. I think she already knew that she was with Clint. That's why she's been digging on Clint. And as Megan points out here, she has been, Clint has been out with the family in public here. But, I think, which is why they also included ages in that list. It's more than just knowing their names, there's more detail.
Or child 1, child 2, child 3.
And you know what's really interesting about that list, and I'm skipping ahead a little bit, but we're talking about it. That list was written down, and it was in Maya's apartment. So, did Maya collect the information herself, or did she have someone do it and they gave her this list?
Yeah.
I
So
have
that
no idea where it's going.
well, that kind of takes us to kind of my next question. I mean, first of all, as we end
And
that
it's, and it's
scene,
just on pen and paper, which is kind of it's very nonchalant. Like
yeah.
there's just some casual information.
Well, it's there like someone, just sent her a message and she just scratched it all down somewhere.
Or like she's on the telephone and she's just like, let me get a pen and paper real quick.
Yep.
But so, a couple things that happen there that are big. We do see that Clint does snatch the sword.
Right.
Oh wait, she can't talk on the telephone. Never mind.
Text message.
They do have actually, probably, and they do have ways for deaf people to talk on the telephone. They just use
Yes.
voice tech. It just basically translates to text as they talk.
So this note here, I have not known a lot of deaf people in my life, but the ones I have tend to carry pen and paper on them.
Yeah.
So I think that's probably why they went there. I think that was another clue as to whose apartment we were in, was that it was written down like that.
I had a client who was deaf, and that's exactly how we communicated at all
Yeah.
times.
Yeah.
So
Clint
we see,
snatches the sword.
so Clint snatches the sword and he leaves. And after everybody kind of leaves the table, we see Eleanor make a phone call. Who do you think she called? I mean,
Mephisto.
Mephisto.
I think that she's the one who hired the Black Widows.
Okay.
Ooh.
Maybe. Do you think that Yelena was hired though, or
See, that's the thing is I don't know if they.
I feel like she was kind
torn
of.
on whether they were hired or
pointed.
whether this is just the moment she finally caught up with.
well, because Yelena's not working with the Black Widow anymore. So it'd be did she hire, or did she give a what it is did she give a tip to Madam Hydra?
I think she called Val.
Right,
Yeah.
called Val and said, "Hey, I know that you've been looking for this guy, and you have like Yelena. He's in New York. He's hanging out with my daughter. I can tell you where my daughter is at this time." And like that would make perfect sense to me.
Yeah, that's kind of where I was going, and I think what really tipped me off to that was that final scene on the roof where Elena's like, she just shakes her head like, you don't want to do this. I don't want to do this. And then she tethers her as she knocks her off the roof.
Right.
Yeah, there's a couple
Keep her
things
from
where they
getting hurt.
both kind of spare each other there.
Yeah. I didn't understand why Kate would spare Yelena.
I think it was the story Clint told her the night before.
Agreed.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, the shot you didn't take. She saw in her eyes that. Okay, yeah, no. Now that you point that out, that's actually really good storytelling.
Yeah.
That's the thing is I don't think they're wasting story beats. I think all of the stuff that we got. I mean, even her learning to flip the coin. I think all that stuff's going to come back around, and I think that him saying the best shot I ever took was the one I didn't take. is kind of what led to that moment of her deciding not to let that arrow go.
Yeah.
So does anybody have any different thoughts on who she might have called?
Kingpin.
It could have been Kingpin.
I was
It
about to
could
say
have been-
Kingpin, but I didn't want to be that guy.
To me,
I
the only
really
thing...
don't want-
Somebody's
Andrew already said it. I don't want Kingpin to become the Mephisto of this show.
Absolutely, yeah.
So the only three people that I can come up with that makes sense, because she didn't call Maya, because Maya's
Right.
deaf. So the only three people, and one of them is totally like off the wall, because it would hinge on her father not actually being dead, which is a thing we've already discussed. So, I mean, Val, Kingpin, or her supposedly dead father are really the only three people I can come up with that make sense to play back into this story.
I like the idea of it being Val.
Yeah.
I like that. I like that also. I would not be upset if it was Kingpin or one of his, generals, so to speak. But I think Val makes more sense.
Yeah.
Especially seeing that who we got at the end of the show.
Right. And I think Val makes sense given both the position of Eleanor and Val, with Val being some sort of government official. We don't know exactly what she is at this point in time, but, and then Bishop Security being a very high profile security company. I think that works. So that's what I'm going with, but, no other thoughts?
No, that's-
Not on this scene in particular.
Yeah,
Okay.
no. I think we've exhausted all the most likely candidates.
Okay. Well, we already talked
And
about...
unless we're bringing in a new player, but we've just got so many existing players.
Yeah, I don't think we're bringing somebody else new in at this point. I think we know that Kingpin's lurking in the background, and
We know that Val's definitely got
I think
her
everybody...
fingers in
we
things.
only have 2 episodes left. I think everybody of importance has been introduced. I think
Unless,
all
of
the
course,
players...
Unless, of course, they're going to introduce Daredevil before the end of the show.
They could. Honestly, well, no, we've talked about that, and honestly, I think if they do Daredevil, I think that if we get Daredevil, it's in the cutscene after the final episode.
Yeah.
fact-
I don't expect to see him till Spider-Man. But
In fact, I fully expect that if him and Kingpin do, I think the subtext is all there that Kingpin is the guy in the background.
he's the uncle.
Right. If we see Kingpin, it's going to be at the very end. And if we see Daredevil, it's going to be in a cutscene. That's what I firmly believe if we see them. And I do think we will see.
Daredevil. I think it's possible we get a reference to Daredevil. I could see a scene where Kingpin talks about the Daredevil of Hell's Kitchen, or the one from Hell's Kitchen, or the one who ruined me, or something like that.
Right. So we already talked about it a little bit, but one of the things, Jack makes a comment about, I guess being made fun of by loved ones is better than being, at Christmas is better than being alone at Christmas. So Kate immediately goes and gets a stack of Christmas movies, the ugly Christmas sweater, and all the stuff to decorate a tree, and shows back up to try to cheer Clint up.
A very enduring scene.
Yeah, and that's what
endearing, I should say.
That's what I wanted to say. I mean, it was I thought it was a really, really nice scene. Of course, it leads to the deeper moments that we already talked about with Clint, but
Yeah.
we're seeing Clint. Clint's down. Clint is. But we're seeing the same thing that they actually brought up briefly in Black Widow, that Clint's just a man. You see, he's not just, if they retire Clint at the end of this, Clint's not just retiring because he doesn't want to do it anymore. Clint's just a man. He's taping frozen daiquiri mix all over his body just to try to relieve the pain.
Which I thought was fantastic.
I thought it was great. I like it better than what they did in Black Widow, because Black Widow just can take hits from grenades and pop an ibuprofen and is fine. Clint isn't doing anything like that. He's not skydiving out of
Right.
a falling airship and doing kung fu in midair and then landing on her feet and like flipping her hair back and like and also looking extremely beautiful while doing it the whole time. He and also he's deaf. I like the way they're doing it with this a bit more, where he's very vulnerable, and it's not like he's taken any huge any huge amount of damage in this show.
Yeah.
So it's not like it's unbelievable that he's still able to walk. But it's funny, he's just taping all this frozen stuff to him, and I'm sure he's downing ibuprofen.
If I can, if I can for just 1 second, I'm gonna take just a quick step off the line. I personally, this is just me personally, so I'm gonna go on a little bit of a rant. I really get tired of hearing people dissing Hawkeye. You get it all the time. He doesn't have any powers. He shouldn't be there. Blah 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 blah. Since I was a kid, I've been a Hawkeye fan reading the comics, and the reason I was because he didn't have superpowers, and yet he could still fight alongside the Avengers. He honed himself. It gave me, as a young man, the thought that, well, hey, if this guy can stand next to Iron Man and stand next to Thor, the god, the demigod, and still fight on his own, then maybe I can achieve that thing that I want to achieve in my life as well. So get off Hawkeye's back, man. He's an inspiration. I love him, and his character is fantastic. Sorry, I will stop my tirade now.
Absolutely, no, you're
No problem.
absolutely right.
I'm a big Hawkeye fan. Like I was not a huge comic book reader, but there were some of the animated shows that he was in that they had some really great versions of Hawkeye.
I agree.
Hawkeye has some great moments in the comic book, and I really do enjoy him as a character and his growth. Not just the Matt Fraction run that this is based off of, but just his whole tenure with the Avengers, I think, was really, really entertaining and had some great moments. I liked his time as Ronin in the comics and his stories there. I do enjoy Hawkeye a lot, and I just think archery is really freaking cool. Like, one of my favorite DC heroes is Green Arrow, and so I just really like these archery characters, and I just think that being able to, you're right, where it's like you're looking at him as an inspiration. I'm looking at it more literally as like, oh man, if I just got really good at archery, I could totally be a vigilante. Theoretically,
why
that
not?
could work. So I really do like how
My favorite Hawkeye line is always, "The city's flying. It's being overtaken by robots, and I have a bow and arrow. None of this makes any sense."
Yep.
I love it. It's like it's because you know there are people in the audience saying that doesn't make any sense, and so he just goes ahead and says it.
Yep.
Just heads off that exact line that the fanboys are going to throw out. So
Great hero, horrible costume.
I love her obsession with his branding.
I do too.
I have an appreciation for the freaking Roman soldier version of Hawkeye's costume with the skirt and everything, and I like that we've kind of gotten jokes about it in the show and references, and obviously the LARPers are making him a suit now. So
I am going to say when I saw the promotional picture of both of them wearing the black and purple, I was giggling like a 12-year-old child.
Yeah,
very excited.
It's going to be very cool. But
sorry,
yeah,
I didn't mean to disrail this.
No.
It's all good.
We've gone on worse tangents.
Oh yeah,
For much longer.
much longer. Yeah,
I'm currently editing an hour and 50-minute episode that me and David and Ro did.
Oh yeah. I'm sure there's a lot of tangents about Star Wars.
I'll be saying extra prayers for you.
Yeah. Anytime we start recording, saying we don't really have much to talk about this week. I don't know if we've got an hour's worth of stuff to talk about. It's 2.5 hours later. It's okay.
I always joke around
Wrap it
with the people that come on my show is that our rails are painted on very loose dirt.
Yeah. Right.
You're not going to stay on it. Don't plan on staying on it. We're just going to have a good time and go.
Off we go. Yeah. Tangents.
Marisha, were you trying to say? Yeah. Hey, it's okay. It's totally okay, bro. I loved it. You were trying to say something, Marisha. I think I interrupted you. Actually, I'm sorry, but what were you saying? You probably don't.
Oh,
Remember.
I like so whenever the promotional materials came out and they're both wearing the costume, I was like, I really thought we were going to get that purple I thought they were going to establish that kind of early in the show. I really thought we were going to get that costume. I didn't think we were going to be 4 episodes in and still no costumes. So I really am surprised that they haven't done that yet. But I'm excited to see, costumes is kind of my jam, so I'm excited to see what they do costume-wise.
Yeah. Kate's kind of had her little costume. I mean, obviously she's going to get an upgraded one, but she's kind of had her costume.
Yeah, hers has kind of been evolving through the show, which I've enjoyed.
I've enjoyed that as well.
Which is kind of Clint's has evolved from the first time we saw him in the event, saw him in the MCU up till Endgame. His was continually evolving too. So they've kind of done a shortened version of that with Kate. But kind of the next thing, so they split up. Clint goes to interrogate Kazi.
Oh wait, I'm sorry. Wait, I don't want to. We didn't talk. I don't think we talked about a couple things that I want to talk about in regards to their Christmas scene. So they had it was really enduring. It was really great. But then they had their. I know we already touched on it, but there's one thing I just really want to talk about. They had that scene where they get serious all of a sudden. They start talking about the shot you didn't take. Oh, also by the way, the whole coin thing straight out the Matt Fraction comic. So that was really fun to see.
Well, that's something in the comics he learned from his brother, right?
I honestly don't know that part. I just know that
I believe so.
There's a whole lot of that in the Matt Fraction run. There's like a scene where he like does that. But so that was really fun to see. But they start having this serious conversation, and I really like that they go ahead and they have Kate figure out that he's Ronin. And I get the impression that she has known that he's Ronin. She just kind of didn't really want to talk about it, like a don't ask, don't tell kind of thing. Like, but here we are. This is the right moment to bring it up, because I've been in that situation. Like, I totally know this secret that this person's hiding from me. I'm not going to bring it up, but like finally, here we are. We're a little drunk, and I'm gonna bring up the fact that you're totally Ronin, aren't you? And I like how it doesn't become this super dramatic thing of like, as she stands up, it's like, I don't even know you anymore, like something stupid like that.
Right.
Because here's the thing about Ronin, and I would like for them to have more discussions about like what he really did as Ronin. I get that he killed a lot of criminals, and I totally get how that could haunt him and how that could give him some serious PTSD that he did that. But what I don't understand, and what I don't think they've established, is how was what he was doing as Ronin any different from what he was already doing as a weapon for S.H.I.E.L.D.? That apparently him being Ronin is like so bad that like, I get that it's bad in the sense of like it's going to come back to haunt him, as in the criminals will find out and then they'll want payback. But how is it so bad in the sense of like, he thought he deserved to die instead of Black Widow because he had been Ronin? And it's like in the very first Iron Man movie, Iron Man goes back to the Middle East and kills like so many people with bullets. Like, that's totally a normal thing in the MCU. It's not like Batman. Batman's like, I do not kill. Like, that's not what's going on here. It is completely normal and acceptable and very well established that like, oh, you're a Hydra agent? I'm going to shoot you in the eye with a bow and arrow and now you're dead. Like, that's just how it works. So what is so horrible about him being Ronin that he like wanted to throw himself off of a cliff?
So
and he didn't think his family would accept him again. Like, I don't understand.
Yeah. What was that, Alan?
Well, and there's also a big difference between putting an arrow in someone's eye from a couple of 100 yards and taking them down face to face with a sword, where you're actually going to hear the breath leave their body.
Yeah.
I totally understand why that would give him more PTSD personally. I don't understand why it is treated as it's this like horrible thing that he did, like from an outsider's perspective. Like, oh,
because
he killed all these
made
criminals?
the decision.
What do we? Oh,
he wasn't a soldier.
He made the decision.
There's a couple of things he says during
and he
the
didn't
conversation.
have the right to do that, I guess.
I think there's a couple of things. One, when he's fighting Hydra or fighting these big Avengers level threats, you're not killing like the low man on the totem pole that's, someone's dad, someone's brother, someone's sister. Like, he was killing the people at the bottom to work his way up to the people at the top because he didn't have but the one line that he says in this episode to her, he said, I did what I was trained to do. People dealt with the blip in different ways. I just kept doing what I was trained to do. And she says, you help people. He says, no, I hurt people, not without, investigating first, but I still hurt, I was still a weapon. But he says I was a weapon aimed by the right people.
Right. And that's right. But whenever he's Ronin literally means like a samurai without a master.
Yeah.
So he was just out there taking the law into his own hands, basically. And I totally get why he's like, that was wrong for me to do. And it's also the idea that as Hawkeye, as Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., he was doing things that like were like genuinely saving the world, probably like on a weekly basis.
Yeah. He was a soldier.
He was a soldier, and he was doing what he was told, and also he did it. He did it as a job. He didn't like take pleasure in it, and he wasn't like filled with anger in doing it. As Ronin, he was full of anger and like hatred and despair, and he took it out on these people. These people might have been horrible criminals. So I get why. But I still totally understand why he, in his own like consciousness, feels horrible about being Ronin. I don't understand why the outside world would like be angry at this Ronin thing, like, which they really didn't play that off. That's why I'm glad they didn't do the whole Kate Bishop being like, I don't even know who you are anymore. Like, she didn't play it off like that, because like in
that
reality,
would have been very disappointing.
That would have been disappointing, because in reality, like, why would she even be mad at him?
That's
like,
the thing.
He killed all these criminals. What do I do? It's like slap him on the back and give him a goddamn medal for like taking out these horrible people.
Yeah. So I think that's actually the deal. I think it's a bigger problem for him internally than it is for the people around him. I feel like this is something that he's struggling with personally.
I just need to work that out in my brain. I needed to talk about that.
Right. And I think it's part of it is the reason he did it. And like y'all said, he was angry, and he took it out on other people.
It's the difference between being a soldier and being a murderer. I mean, like, some people.
Well, he went from being an agent, a soldier, to being a pure vigilante.
I mean, that's it's different to just be the executioner and to be the judge, jury, and executioner.
Well, that's kind of the thing. He had been a tool, a weapon for justice.
Right.
And then he becomes, more like someone like Punisher. It's vengeance.
Right.
He becomes vengeance.
Yeah, but the difference between the two is that he becomes vengeance not because of what was done directly to him, as the Punisher did. Right?
Right.
He took it into his own hands and his own mind and his own decision to be the one saying, I'm going to go out and do these horrible things because I can.
Right.
They got Thanos, you get me.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that's what he's struggling with, is that he made that decision to become that person.
Yeah.
And I like how Kate is just being like supportive and is just kind of being a friend and isn't like telling him how he should feel or anything like that. Like, I'm not going to get too far off track. I was rewatching Shang-Chi the other day, and what I discovered I really liked about Katie was that Katie never told Shang-Chi how to feel or what to do or if he was right or wrong. She was just a really good, supportive friend. Like, there's a scene in Shang-Chi where he's like, I'm going to kill my father, and Katie just sits there like, oh man, well, you do what you have to do. Like, you're my friend. I support you. Instead of being like, oh my God, I don't even know you. So like, I'm getting that same vibe from Kate. And they're building up a friendship. It's not even really I don't even see it as like a father-daughter kind of thing. I really do see it as just like a partnership that is being developed.
What do you mean? Do you mean that you can have friends the same age as your kids?
But
yeah, it's almost, it's weird. Who would have a friend the same age as their parents.
I know that's crazy.
I don't know so much that it's a friendship as much as it is a mentorship.
It's
Yeah.
it's a mentorship, but I don't see it as like overly doing this whole father-daughter thing.
Well, according to Kate, she is his best friend.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see it as a partnership, almost like she's sort of not that she can replace Natasha, but there's that scene later where he like is holding her, and it's like it's sort of in the same position his last partner was in, and Kate definitely treats them like they're partners.
Yeah.
Alan, to give you some context, Andrew was my dad's best friend in high school, so that's how we know each other.
Oh,
So
okay.
that's the joke I'm getting at here. Is like,
Little inside joke, but
who would
I
be
was just
friends-
over here going, okay, there's something going on.
Yeah.
who would be friends with someone their parents' age? Yeah.
Yeah.
No, he was at the hospital when I was born.
It's true.
Yeah.
There's photographic evidence.
Wow. You had many opportunities to stop this.
Oh, that's where your brain goes.
Sorry, I had to. It was
I guess. That's true.
But I do love that moment, David, where they have that conversation and she doesn't blow up. She doesn't run off and cry. She has this moment where her, her view of her idol changes a little bit because he's like, I was who I always was. And she says, but you help people. And because that's her view. That's why she wanted to be like him, because he helps people. So she gets a little bit of a wake up there.
And he
but-
tells her like, "Don't look up to me, kid."
Right. But in the end, at the end of that, he says, get some sleep. And she just says, all right, boss. And she leaves. And then the next morning, he's like, okay, you're going to go see the LARPers. You're going to get my arrows. And she says, I prefer to think of them as our arrows.
Arrows.
And so it's like she's had time to process it, and now she's back. And then they take right back off where they were.
This is going to sound kind of weird, but I look at their relationship personally. I see that it's a Miyagi moment.
Yeah,
They have a lot of Miyagi moments between the two
Yeah.
of them.
I agree.
Did they make a wax on, wax off joke in this?
Not
No,
that
that
I'm
was
aware.
Shang-Chi. That was Shang-Chi.
That was Shang-Chi.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm getting my MCU. Like I said, I watched it a couple days ago. So
Yeah.
Okay. Did that cover everything that you wanted to cover during
Yeah,
the
yeah.
Christmas scene? Okay. So from there, we have some fairly quick scenes that we've kind of already discussed. Clint goes and finds Kazi. Kate goes and finds the LARPers. We kind of already talked about the LARPer thing. I love that moment. I love that they brought the LARPers back around.
They were fun.
The LARPers are so fun.
I love
They
that the
were fun.
LARPers are like, I don't think they're going to be their comic book characters at all. But at least two of them have names of people that Clint fought in the comics that were kind of part of the circus group that he fights in the comics.
Fun.
Wendy Conrad, the officer who goes and gets the arrows, was Bombshell, which is what's on her bag.
Oh.
So we get a couple little cool character nods there, but they were adversaries of his in the comics, and I don't think they're gonna bring it around that way. I think they were just a cool little nod to the comics.
the LARPers have grown on me. I didn't really like them last time because
No,
I was
you
like,
didn't.
what was the point of this? But now they've kind of brought them back, so there's actually like kind of a narrative purpose to
yeah.
them existing, and they're actually playing a role. So it's not just an excuse to have LARPing scenes. Like I kind of think it's fun, and they're funny, and they're growing on me. And I also like Clint interacting with people because like one of the best things out of the Matt Fraction book is his interaction with his neighbors in his apartment building. So this is kind of a fill-in for that in a way of like some regular people that that I can talk to who can actually help me out in ways that I really don't expect.
Right.
So that was fun.
So any thoughts on that or Clint interrogating Kazi?
That was another fun scene. I like it's like if you're looking for this, it's not there, or the one up there, or the one under the seat. Like Clint is like 10 steps ahead of this dude. This dude is small time compared to
Yes.
You can definitely
absolutely.
tell he knew. You can definitely tell he knew what he was doing.
Yeah, I get like this. Okay, so like one of my favorite games is The Last of Us, and there's this scene in Last of Us when Joel explains to Ellie, he's like, "Yeah, they're gonna attack us from over there, and they're gonna do that." And Ellie's like, "How do you know that?" And he's like, "I've been on both sides." And I feel like Clint's the same way, where he knows this stuff because he's been on both sides of it. He's had guns hidden in compartments in his car, and he's also snuck into cars with people with had guns hidden in those compartments.
And and the box cutter.
And it'll
the
be
knife.
interesting to see exactly if we get more into Clint's backstory in this show or at any point, because truth is we've never been told what Clint was before he became before Fury found him.
Mm-hmm.
I really think, honestly, and I would be more than happy if they delve into it, because as I said, I'm a Hawkeye fan, but I honestly don't think they will. I think they're going to leave it a mystery.
Maybe so, and that's just as well. I mean, at
Hey,
this
Marisha's
point,
in
like,
the chat.
Well, hi, Marisha.
and Marisha is in the chat. Nick did finally make it. He finally got back in cell phone
Yay.
service, but and Don, I'm assuming that's Don is here. So
That would be
welcome.
Don.
Seems like a safe bet.
So I do like this, that, you know, Clint is the Kazi scene. It's simple, it's straightforward, but it's him basically telling Kazi straight up, like, Maya has to quit looking for the Ronin or she's going to wind up dead. And then he's saying, you know, I want to leave. Like, I don't want to be here doing this. I want to go, but I got to deal with this before I can get out of here. So help me put an end to this.
And I'll be out of your hair. Like, everybody wins. If
And you
just get her
also-
to leave us alone.
And also, like, I feel like this is also like, you know, he says, like, I'm not a good guy. I'm this and this and this. And he gets up and he straight up tells this guy, she better leave this alone or she's going to die. I mean, it's like, in case you're wondering if he's dangerous, he just straight up threatened to kill this girl.
Well, he did that, but I think it's more like, you know, there's not a lot of option. If she keeps trying to kill me, like, you know, bad
And
things are gonna
especially
happen.
since she's got information on my family.
And
I
can't-
think
we
that-
can't kill her. She's got a show coming. So
Yeah.
Yeah, no
gotta tell her
doubt.
to cut it out.
Well, they could, and it could be, you know, anyway. I think that also it was kind of him saying she's going to get herself killed
Yeah,
if she
yeah.
continues down this path.
That's true. That's
Yeah, I think that was really kind of the gist of it. But so we got one real question left, and I want to talk about that rooftop scene. So leading into the rooftop scene, we finally get a little more on the watch. Why it's important. Someone's identity is attached to this watch.
And he said it's a way to contact a friend or something.
Maybe, but it's someone who has been out of the game for a while, and their identity is still attached.
Yeah, might just be Laura's wife. Maybe what he was saying was that, like, while Laura was in the game, she used this watch to contact me or something, like, and
I don't think it's Laura at this point, because that is if I remember correctly and I saw it correctly, that's a men's Rolex.
It is a men's Rolex. Now I wonder if it's Clint's, and that what David is saying is true, that's Clint's watch.
That very well
but
could be.
But it could still tie Laura back to something.
yeah. But then also, why were they so focused on getting the watch? The Tracksuit Mafia, if you remember, like, at the auction, they were like, we got to find the Rolex. We got to find the Rolex.
Yeah, the watch is important, and it's attached to someone, and I really don't know who. But that's kind of my question. Do y'all have any thoughts? Because I think Clint and Laura are the kind of the obvious.
Because also, it has to be somebody. Oh, Nick Fury. Yeah, for
I have
some
heard
reason,
Fury's
it has to be
name.
at Avengers Compound.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
who would?
I mean, if
who
it's
would
Nick
have
Fury's
something
watch,
at
it
Avengers
could be
Compound?
attached to anybody.
Well,
who's
you
ever
know,
been
we
in the
do have
game.
Secret War or Secret Invasion coming up. I mean, it could have something to do with the Skrulls. It could have something to do with Fury. Those two things could easily be related. I don't know, but I mean, those are you know, Fury's a good guess. Although I'm not sure if anybody really knows where Fury even is at the moment.
No, well, they
a
think
spaceship?
they know. They
Right.
they think they know that Nick is just, like, hanging out.
With Captain
On
America.
Earth.
On the moon, yeah.
Oh yeah, but he's just hanging out. But, like, that's actually a scroll. Actual Nick Fury is on a spaceship, and yeah, I don't think any maybe Captain Marvel knows, but I doubt anybody else does.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is to me is the big reveal. I have I know it's going to be important for future MCU. I just don't know what that importance is yet.
Okay, so Nick has we did discuss the fact that she is most likely a former Shield agent, possibly even Mockingbird, but he's adding something extra to the theory there. That if that watch somehow connects to a list of aliases, it could
Yeah.
we could out more than one individual if that's the case.
Maybe it's you have to use one of those USB arrows.
Bring in
Downloads.
the USB arrow. Like, give it a reason. That's great.
Why do you have a USB arrow?
Right.
Because to get it back, you have to go to wherever the USB was placed.
Unless
to
it
get
transmits.
Oh, it's got Wi-Fi.
It's
There
a
you go.
boomerang USB arrow.
I do.
Clint's not Australian. A boomerang arrow won't work.
That's how that works.
Yeah.
I did love the boomerang. I mean, the boomerang arrow thing is straight out of the comics, and I did love the conversation about that.
Yeah, that was fun.
Coming
Yes.
back at you.
Like he's like trying to explain, like it's coming back at you. She just doesn't. It doesn't click in her
Yeah.
head why that's a problem.
Right. To the end, she's like, "Yeah, you'd have to dodge it." Like, but so let's skip ahead to the last scene. This is the big ending. Most of the action, or really all of the action in this episode, occurs in this final couple minutes. What are your thoughts on the rooftop fight?
I thought the fight itself was great. The choreography was very well done.
As one does expect. You know, if there's one thing that Marvel does top notch, fight choreography, you know, except for an Iron Fist. But other than that,
Yeah, other than the one about a martial
I'm
artist.
sorry. What show was that? Never seen it.
the one that
but
we
they
don't
made it.
speak of.
Yeah. I really liked everything about the rooftop scene. I like the whole scene, like going to Echo's apartment, where he's like, "Okay, so here's the plan," and she's just walking through. I totally like, based on what we know about her character, she would totally do that. And she's holding this big bow, and she brings up like, "This is a problem." It's like, I got a collapsible one, so hopefully she gets a little gift at the end. It's a collapsible bow. I like the hint that this
Yeah.
is Echo's apartment, like the alarms. And like anybody who who knows somebody who is deaf, like it's very possible they could see that and be like, "Oh crap, those are alarms for deaf people. This is Echo's apartment." Like you can connect the dots.
Yeah.
Which
And
makes
then,
sense why the lights are out and apparently no one's home.
right, exactly. And I like I like the using the the Play-Doh arrow. Like there's the reason for that existing. So hopefully we'll get the reason for the USB arrow existing. Same way we got the reason for the plunger arrow existing, where it's like I see
Hold
the
on.
use of that now.
Didn't we already see a USB arrow?
We did. We saw a
did.
version of the USB
But
arrow.
we
Okay.
didn't see
And-
its purpose.
We've seen him use it
Yeah.
Oh, we did.
in one of the movies. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he downloaded
when-
a virus into
When he was
the Hydra
on the
computer?
helicarrier.
Yeah.
He was on when he was on the helicarrier.
Whenever he was like possessed by Loki.
Yeah.
Okay, I've totally forgot about that. But anyway, I like using the Play-Doh arrow, and then I love the zip line going down. She gets stuck halfway through
Oh, it's
because I
so
thought I was like, that seems a little too straight to work as a zip line. It needs to be tilted a bit more. And so when she gets stuck, and also she's just not as heavy as Clint, so I'm sure he's used to like angling it for himself, where his weight will pull him down, and she gets stuck halfway through. I thought that was really funny. And then the fight choreography was awesome, and I like kind of figuring out like, oh, who is this that's attacking him, and then it's Yelena, which is really cool to finally see her in the show.
Yeah.
I think it was. I also love like when Echo shows up, everyone's kind of fighting each other.
Mhm.
Like Echo and Yelena are clearly not on the same side. in this
Right,
fight.
because they both take shots at each other.
Right.
Exactly.
So it becomes like a weird triple threat.
Right.
And it becomes, because you kind of wonder for a minute if they're working together. It doesn't take long to be like, oh, no, wait, no,
No.
different sides. Yeah.
I do like the fact that Elena purposely tethered our hero off before kicking her off of the roof.
That was a neat little touch.
It was because that kind of lets you know maybe where that she's been told, hey, you have to spare her.
Yeah.
or you can't take her down.
Right. That was an interesting touch, and of course they really played that up with the music playing from the scene where Natasha dies in Endgame.
Yeah, and he's holding her, and there was some really interesting story beats because he's holding her, and don't we get a little flash to like that scene, and the music's playing, and in this situation, Kate is asking like, pull me up," while Natasha was like, "Let me go," and while with Natasha forces his grip away to fall. Kate with Kate, he purposely lets her drop. He knows that it's going to fall into the Christmas lights and she'll be safe. But it's almost like this character growth moment of like, it's the entirely different situation of what happened last time, and he's letting her go, and she's and knowing she's going to be okay. And I love how she drops down and instantly gets up, just runs back up the stairs. Like that was really funny. And I like how she's like, "I'm not letting this go, Clint." And then of course, at the end, he's like, "This just got real fast. There's a Black Widow, and I know that Kate's not gonna go like just go home."
Right.
Yeah.
And that was proven
she's
right there.
too far
she
in to
walked
camp.
right back up.
Yeah, she's too far in. She can't walk away at this point because if she did, she would still be in danger.
Yeah, and I think she actually cares about Clint.
She does.
At this point.
Yeah. Oh, I do too, and that's the thing. They both care about each other. She wants to help because she cares about him. He wants to keep her safe. So that's I thought that was a really big moment there, and I'm interested to see how they resolve that. How they wind up back together for whatever's fixing to go down here.
I agree.
At the end,
It's about to get real. It's about to get real.
Yeah.
Well, it's going to have to. There's only 2 episodes left.
Well, and I'm real curious to see how much they can resolve in 2 episodes with both what's going on between Clint and Yelena and Echo and Yelena. I mean, Echo and Clint.
Yeah,
Which
and
is
also everything with Kate and
Right.
Jack and Eleanor and
Yeah.
And I love that they took a minute to do some like character development, like have some conversations, like took a break from all the action to really touch on some important character moments.
Yeah.
Because I feel that's always the risk is to, go, and to let the
what I
character
like is they
suffer.
do these character development. We've done character development, we've done character introductions, and a lot of shows bog down in those moments. They slow down, they kind of lose their pace. I can tell you, having only seen 2 things that they've directed, that I am Bert and Birdie fans. They have
Yeah.
killed it with the 2 episodes they directed. But I love that all the way through this show, even on the ones that they didn't direct, that we don't lose our steam when we stop to either introduce a character or to do character development. The story keeps moving forward. It doesn't just come to a halt. Because we had episodes in as much as I loved Loki, we had episodes where Loki just came to a screeching halt.
Yep.
To do character
like
introductions.
Nothing happened except we met Sylvie.
Right.
Well, remember early on you had asked me what I thought, and I said that I really liked the episode, but I thought that this was the weaker of the 4 thus far. And the only reason I feel that is because at a story level progression, this story should have taken place last week. Most of last week should have taken place this week. Because you're at that midpoint, and that midpoint's where you're wanting to pull the audience into the, oh my God, I feel so bad for Clint. I see what she's trying to do to help him, and blah 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 blah. Before that roller coaster takes off again. That being said, I'm not complaining. I love this show. I absolutely love it.
Yeah.
So what do y'all?
That's
what do
just
y'all-
my thought.
What do y'all think about Nick's question here?
That would be a bummer.
From what I know about Kate so far, I get the feeling that she would hesitate, of course. Like, she's not going to, like, kill her mom. But, like, in the end, I think she'd be pretty rational about it and be pretty quick to side with Clint.
Yeah.
And to hear Clint out.
So here's my answer to this, is that if we find out, and we will find out where she stands, we're going to find out by the end of this that she's likely one of the big bads, probably working just under Kingpin himself. That we're not going to address it. That this isn't Clint's thing to deal with. Clint's thing to deal with is atoning for his perceived sins as the Ronin. So I think that if we find out that she is the big bad or one of the big bads here, that it's left in a season 2 for Kate to deal with herself.
Or they find out not only that she's the big bad, but she was the one responsible for Echo's father. And the Echo series is the continuation of the two taking down her mother.
Right.
They
could really twist this. The one thing we haven't talked about with Eleanor, I mean, we know Jack Duquesne is the swordsman in the comics. But what if the twist here is that Jack's not the swordsman?
She is.
Yeah.
I mean, he's obviously good with a sword, but like, what if that's not his deal at all?
Yeah, I could totally see them doing that. The MCU have done stuff like that before that kind of twist things around and like to play with that kind of thing. I wouldn't hate that. The thought that I just had was, what if the big reveal at the end is that she calls herself? Kate discovers that she has this empire of like criminal activity, and Eleanor looks at her and goes, "Yes, this is my empire. I am the kingpin of crime." And she is the kingpin, and that's what we've been hearing about. That Kingpin's in the show.
He's already been in the show, though. Kingpin's already made his cameo.
There are some twists. I would be absolutely fine with Eleanor being the swordsman, but I think that because I love this show, like so far, top to bottom, so far, this is my favorite MCU series. I think it's the most concisely told story. I think that if they did the twist David's talking about, that this story goes straight in the dumpster.
Yeah, it does.
What do you mean Kingpin's already made his cameo?
At the beginning of the episode, when she was at martial arts class and her dad said, "Your uncle's going to come and pick you up," and you saw the chief. Did you hear the voice? Because if you didn't, you need to listen to it again.
If it wasn't
that was the actor who played Kingpin on Daredevil. Absolutely, 100%.
It was Vincent D'Onofrio's laugh.
Yes.
Now, whether they did that to throw us off or not, I don't think so.
No,
I think we saw the suit.
Speculating that there was a hand that put on her shoulder.
Yeah, we see
that's totally Kingpin.
We see the suit. We see the cufflinks, which we know that our Netflix Kingpin was obsessed with his cufflinks.
Yeah,
and that laugh.
And the laugh.
Boy,
the laugh was 100%.
Vincent
D'Onofrio.
My father told me to wear cufflinks when
and
I was a boy.
The other thing about Eleanor is
this city, my city.
My city. I kind of, in some ways, and I don't know exactly how it would work out, but I got in that first episode, I got a little bit of the vibe that she might have had something to do with the dad. Like either things just
Kate's dad?
Conveniently went her way, with Kate's dad, or she had something to do with something that looked like the.
New York?
But what if she realistically though, what if she used that to her advantage?
And that's what I was thinking. Like, was that just her cover?
Well,
she had something in place, and that was her cover.
His death, real or faked, whichever it turns out to be, was awfully convenient to them not losing the penthouse.
Yeah.
It's his death and presumably insurance money that prevents the loss of the penthouse.
Yeah.
So, I'm real curious to see where they go. I'm loving the show. I'm expecting a lot more action over the next 2 episodes. I think all the chips are on the table now, and that we're just going to be more top to bottom. We have a ton of action shots from the trailers that we still haven't seen,
which is surprising.
Yeah, Marvel series usually don't show a lot from beyond the first
usually
episode.
Like the first episode, maybe the first 2.
No, but I think they did that. I think they really wanted to hammer home some of the kind of diehard aesthetic.
Yeah,
And with
Marvel
that,
also. Oh, sorry about that, but Marvel also will show things in their trailers that doesn't appear in the movie or in the
very,
series,
very true.
You know, so they're good at doing both.
Yeah.
And I apologize for interrupting.
Oh no, absolutely fine. But unless anybody's got anything to add, I think that's probably a good place to wrap up for the week.
I think,
No?
David,
I
Alan.
think I'm out of things to say.
Look,
Okay.
I'm just
I could
looking
keep
forward to
going.
the next.
I could keep going for an hour, so I just got to cut it off now.
All right. Well, let's go around the room real quick and let everybody tell people where they can find them online. I'll let Alan, our guest, go first. Alan, tell people where they can find you and find your podcast.
Well, thank you very much. We're currently just streaming live on YouTube on Thursday evenings, 7:30 Eastern time. But we are in the process of working out a way to get those edited down so we can start actually posting them as podcasts anywhere you would find podcasts. So we're hoping to do that. This week, we're going to have a really fun episode. Thursday at 7:30, we're going to be covering Christmas claymation. So all those stories that you watched as a child and grew up with, we're going to. I have 4 different people who are going to talk about 4 different Christmas claymations in 20-minute segments. So it should be a lot of fun.
Nice.
My co-host Chantel here will be on there, and we also have a special guest coming on that evening. So it should be a lot of fun.
What's the name of the YouTube channel?
Our YouTube channel is under Press Play Streaming Studios.
Okay, cool.
Excellent.
All right, David, where can people find you?
You guys can find me on the Science Fictionary podcast, on wherever you like to listen to podcasts, Spotify, iTunes, etc. I'm there pretty much every episode. I'm also on most of the YouTube stuff, and you can find just me, because that's all that really matters, on my Twitter account, David_JG Peoples, where I am giving constant updates I'm giving constant updates about my Deep Space Nine watch through right now.
Oh, perfect.
Which I am 9 episodes away from the finale, so we'll finally be able to satisfy Rose's craving to talk about some Deep Space Nine.
Excellent.
Talk about it on the show.
Great.
All right, and Marisha.
Just found out Ducat is Space Jesus. Very excited.
Now we know.
Yep.
You can find me on Instagram at princesses_and_padawans, and I'm P Padawans on Twitter. And I mean, like in theory, mostly I'm just on this podcast talking nerdy things with
In theory.
my people. I mean, like it's there. You can see what I have done in the past on the internet.
Technically speaking, my Instagram is called Princesses and Padawans.
It's true. Don't forget the underscores.
Oh.
All right, guys. Well, you can find us on both of our podcasts, Coruscant Radio Underground and the Science Fictionary Podcast, anywhere that you listen to podcasts. You can drop us a line at thesciencefictionary@gmail.com or find us on Twitter at sci_fictionary. You can also find us at red5network.com or at red5network on Twitter. I just wanted to remind everyone, as Nick mentioned here, as we wrap up here, WSTR is celebrating 250 episodes and 5 years of their podcast, and they went live about 15 minutes ago. So if you got time, head over there and be sure to check them out.
Awesome.
Absolutely.
All right. I think we're done. So until next time. Oh, and everybody in the chat, thank you so much for hanging out in the chat with us tonight.
Yes.
And Alan, thank you again for coming on tonight.
Thank you so much
yes.
for having me. I had a great time. Great
Awesome.
time.
It
Thank
was
you.
awesome. You're welcome back anytime.
Well, thank you, sir.
I don't have the authority to say that.
You
you
do. All right, guys. Everybody have a great night.
Good night.
Bye, everybody.
This podcast is part of the Red 5 Network. For more Red 5 Network podcasts, visit red5network.com.